Welcome back to the Pig and Whiskey Test Kitchen. Today we are cooking turkey once again. We are going to explore a method of cooking similar to the Spatchcock method, but in my opinion, it's a method that creates a better, more evenly cooked bird. Stick around and I'll show you how it's done. Alright, we're going to start with a fully thawed turkey. This one is approximately 20 pounds. Our first step is to remove the plastic bones in the turkey since we can't eat them. Next up, we're going to take the wings off. Go ahead and just pull out the wing and slice it across the knuckle. You'll see that it pops loose pretty easily, and then you can use your knife to cut the rest of the way through. We'll quickly do this on the other side as well. We're going to save these wings for making stock. Next, we're going to cut along the breastbone. I'm just making short, precise cuts while slicing along the rib cage, removing the breast. Just take your time and follow the rib cage all the way down until you get to the thigh area. This is our third video in a series centered around turkey. And the main reason for that is at my local grocery store, they have frozen turkeys for 49 cents a pound. So I can make this recipe for approximately $8. And that, I can't complain about. Next, we're going to cut along the wing knuckle. There is a joint that connects the wing to the carcass, and you want to just use your knife to cut through those tendons that are securing the bone to the carcass. You may need to cut from underneath the bone in an upward fashion to cut through. This one was being a little difficult. Okay, once we have that separated, we're going to move to the other side and fillet the breast back from the rib cage as well. Again, take your time. I'm going to speed this up a little bit. As you can see, I'm following the bones all the way down. I'm going to pop the wing loose, slicing through the tendons once again, and then slicing all the way back through to the thigh, trying to remove as much meat as possible from the rib cage. Now I'm going to use a little bit of force here to pop the thigh bones away from the hips. And using my knife, I'm just going to peel those back from the main carcass. And I'll do the same on the other side. Pop the bone loose from the joint and just some short little slices to remove the thigh meat from the carcass. And then we can move up to the front. While we are holding the neck, we're going to cut from underneath, and we are going to follow the neck along the backbone and careful not to cut through the skin. We are going to remove as much meat as possible until we fully remove the rib cage. Set that aside and save it for your stock. Then I'm going to slice along the thigh bones here, just making short little slices on both sides, trying to free up the bones so that we can get underneath it. Once we can get underneath the bone, we're going to again make small little cuts, removing the meat from the bone. We want to take our time here and remove as much meat as possible, and careful not to cut through the outer skin. Sometimes they can be difficult, but you want to pop open the knuckle and slide your knife through the tendons and the bone should come free. And do the same on the other side. Again, pop the knuckle, and this time the bone came free much more easily. Alright, now we're going to follow the leg bone, so just making some short slices on both sides of the bone. Just try to expose it as cleanly as possible. Once you have it fairly clear, you want to try to get your knife under the bone, then just remove the majority of the meat. Then peel the bone back, scraping the meat from the bone as we go. When we get to the bottom here, we're going to go ahead and just cut through the meat and the tendons. We're going to lose a little bit of leg meat, but that's okay, it'll be great in our stock. Now, we have lots of little tendons left over, and once these things are cooked, they are pretty much inedible. So we want to make sure and we take care here and remove them all. That one was attached to a piece of cartilage, so we also want to make sure that all the cartilage is removed as well. When you serve your turkey in the end, you don't want to bite through a piece of cartilage, so make sure you get all of the tendons and any loose cartilage bits you see in the leg. Okay, now we're going to do this on the other side and speed through this quickly. Here the bone is removed, and now we're going to remove the tendons. We can also throw those in the stock pot as well. Remove any bits of cartilage. And finally, the only bones left in the turkey are our wing bones. So, working from the inside, we're going to cut the meat back from the bone. Once you have a clean grip, you can scrape the meat back slightly and use the force of the cutting board to push the bone up through into the inside. And then we're going to pull the meat through. Then we will lay the wings to the sides under the breasts. Next, we're going to remove the tenderloins from the breast, and then we're going to lay them in between the two halves of the turkey, which will give us more of an even thickness to the roast. Now, at this point, you could butterfly the breasts to make them thinner, but in this case, the breasts were not that thick anyway. Next up, we are going to season the turkey. We are skipping the brine today because it has been brined at the factory, and doing so would be a waste of brine. So we're going direct to the meat with our seasoning. Today we're using a homemade Cajun rub. If you wish to see that recipe, it will be listed in the description box below the video. We're going to season this fairly heavily, as we will lightly season the outside. Next, we're going to take a stick of butter and, cutting into pats, just spread those out on the bird equally. I typically use butcher twine to truss up my roast. However, I do have these stretchy bands that my butcher gave me. We're going to try these out instead. If you want to see how to tie up your roast with twine, you can follow the card link above, and that will take you to a video where I show exactly how trussing with twine works. Okay, we're going to place the bands along the roast, just trying to make it as even as possible. It will be a little thicker on the breasts because we didn't butterfly them, but that's okay. We want them to cook a little slower than the thighs anyway. Now we're just going to season the outside lightly with simple salt and pepper. A thick coat of rub here would hinder the rendering of the skin. Next, we're going to place it on a rack and let it sit for approximately 15 minutes to let the salt draw moisture out of the skin. And then we want to pat down that moisture with a paper towel. This will help dry the skin so that it will render properly when cooking. You could optionally leave this bird in your fridge overnight, and that would help dry the skin as well. Next up, we are spraying it with duck fat, and that will help get us a little crispiness to the skin. The smoker is up to temp with our target temperature at 300 degrees. We are throwing in our wood chunks, replacing our baffles, and placing the roast on the grates. Close the lid, fast forward 45 minutes. Then we're going to turn the grate just a quarter turn to make sure that we don't have any hot spots. And place a piece of foil over the turkey. This will help to keep it from browning too quickly. It's been another 45 minutes and we're going to give it another quick quarter turn. And at this time we're going to place our probe in the thickest part of the breast. We are shooting for an internal temperature of 155 degrees. Once our turkey has reached 155, we're going to bring it inside, wrap it loosely with foil, and let it rest for about 20 minutes. Our turkey has now rested, and you can see some of the juice has leaked out onto the board, and that's okay. Go ahead and remove your strings, and once you have your string removed, you are ready to serve. The great thing about cooking a turkey this way is on one end you have white meat and on the other end you have dark meat. So if you have someone with a preference, you just slice their portion from whichever end they prefer. I'm starting with a slice from the dark meat, as I want to give it a test to make sure everything is good and done. Now we're going to flip it around and slice the breasts. They are extremely juicy, as evidenced by the cutting board. Just going to cut into a couple slices to get a little deeper into the breast to make sure everything is done. Yep, everything looks perfect. Slice off one more, then I'm going to do a little bit of a taste test. I am sacrificing a piece here to squeeze out the juice, just to show you exactly how juicy this bird is. Now I'm going to slice it up and make a nice presentation. Another great thing about this method is there's not a lot of pressure to carve it perfectly. You are simply slicing it from one end to the other. This turkey is smoky, the skin is crispy, and the meat is delicious. Thank you for joining us today in the Pig and Whiskey Test Kitchen. Hope to see you next time. Find our recipes in the description box below, and don't forget, subscribe.